Welcome to this discussion that we're having with an entrepreneur, David Arreaga, who is the CEO and co-founder of Addis Materials. Addis Materials is based in Dallas, Texas. And David has a wonderful story on a personal basis, and I'd love for him to begin by giving us a little bit of that background. And from that, continuing on to tell us a little bit more about the company. And then we'll finalize with speaking a little bit about the current conditions that have been imposed on everyone with respect to business activity. David, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Really appreciate the invitation. So, I'm originally from Mexico. I'm Norteño, from the north of Mexico. I was born in the town of Piedras Negras, and I certainly moved to Texas back in 2009. So I've been here for over 10, 11 years now, and it's been a great experience. Growing up in Mexico, I went through the public educational system in Mexico. It's not always the best of the education you can get, but it certainly forges a very go get it attitude. You certainly have to build from what you have, and I think that's one of the biggest skills that I brought into that my background actually has allowed me to go the entrepreneurial route of you don't always have everything that you desire, everything that you need, but you always have to make the best out of the opportunities and your natural skill set. So as I said, I grew up in Mexico, went to school in my hometown Nava, and came out to UTD, to the University of Texas at Dallas, to do my PhD in material science. I got a scholarship from CONACYT, so it was half a sponsor from the Mexican government and half a sponsor by the Texas government. And it was a wonderful opportunity to me. It was coming into Wonderland because, being used to being in a school system that probably didn't have all the labs and research system that we have in the US and specifically in Texas, it was just astonishing to come and just have the state-of-the-art facilities that we still have at the University of Texas. And that really was extremely motivating to me. I was always of the mindset of I have nothing to complain about. Even though you have the salary or the stipend of a student, in my case, I was a student, but I also had a family to care for. I had my wife and my girl. Back in the day when I was just coming to Dallas, I had my little daughter. She was just about to be born when I moved to Texas. So that always add a little bit of a spiciness to the combination of trying to go through the PhD program and also having somebody else to care for is essentially a motivation for myself. So it was a very interesting experience. But as I said, because I had the opportunity to be in a wonderful school in a great country, my mentality was, it might be tough, but you have nothing to complain about. Just keep going, keep doing it, and we're gonna see the light at the other side. And so.
Well, that's great. That's great. You have a wonderful background. Tell us a little bit about Addis Materials. What does it do? Why is it important to you personally? And why should it matter to the rest of the world?
Sure. So what we do at Aries is we create optical films. So essentially, every display that you interact with in your tablet, your phone, your computer, your TV is made out of many, many layers of polymer materials. These polymers are very special. They have very special optical properties, very special behavior. And we essentially create the materials that will be in all of those displays. Now that the generation of flexible, foldable displays is upon us, we create those materials that enable that new generation of devices that probably in the next couple of years, we're all going to have one of those in our hands. It is important because, as I said, that's the next generation of devices that everyone is going to be getting in the next many years, and it's particularly important for me because this is the product of research that my colleagues and I developed back at the PhD years, and I have always dreamed of being able to contribute something to humanity from my work, taking a little bit of the science that we were able to develop and having an impact in the global economy. That's why it's just massively important to me. And we do it in a very special way. The materials industry has always been characterized for being really, really slow and taking a long time to deliver new products. That's why we started thinking about doing the materials development in a very special and different way, which is the implementation of what we call materials informatics, using machine learning to essentially accelerate the development in our case, the development of polymer materials. And our goal is to essentially reduce the development timeline from what currently is several years to what we think can be just a couple of months.
Excellent. Well, that's great background on you and the company. Is it everything you thought it would be right now? I mean, things are operating exactly as you planned them. And so what's next for Ares Materials if things are operating exactly as you meant for them to operate? If that's not the case, tell us about it.
Well, I think there are many things that are not necessarily what I thought they would be. One that is affecting all of us right now, right? The current global situation is interesting to say the least. I think we're all having to adapt to a new reality, to a situation that is not going away anytime soon, at least to some extent. Is going to permanently affect the way that we live our lives, we go about work, and we do what we do in life. But in other perspective, it really has been more fulfilling and more challenging and more exciting than I ever thought it will be. You always heard it, well, be prepared because this is a long journey and it's going to require a lot of energy and a lot of mental focus and intensity, and it requires that and more so than what anybody can tell you. But it's, as I said, very fulfilling. Like, there is nothing I would rather be doing than what I'm doing today, even with the challenges, even with the problems that it comes with. I think the matureness process gets accelerated, and your professional development just takes massive steps forward, as opposed to just going into the corporate America and just following the normal path or the more common path. I think I have nothing to complain about and many things to be thankful for. The support of great investors for sure, and the ability to work with companies all across the world. It's just been something that I wouldn't change for anything.
Awesome. Well, go back to when you were maybe 8, 10, 12 years old and maybe playing stickball in the streets of your hometown. Mm-hmm. Was the idea or the journey of entrepreneurship ever one of those things that you thought, when I grow up, here's what I want to be doing? What were your role models to even begin to think about that, if any?
The answer is yes. This was something that was always in my mind, and it's not. Though I would say that the primary reason for that is that this is something that my dad always talked about. Like, even though my dad he was an engineer, he worked for a fairly sized company and then become a professor. But one of the things he always said is, if you want to create wealth, you gotta go and start something of your own. You gotta start a business, because just working for somebody, you're just helping someone make their dreams true. But what happens with your own? So he always had that. He always put that in the back of our minds. Like, if you want to really create wealth, if you really want to do well in your life, if you want to be passionate about what you do, you're more than likely going to have to start your own thing, because those opportunities to do what you love and make a living out of it are very scarce. So I think that was something that since I was little, I think my dad always told us. So, and at the same time, he was, I think, when it comes to role models, he certainly, both my parents are great role models for myself. But outside the family core, I think looking at what Hector Ruiz is today, and former CEO of AMD and founder of Global Foundries, I think he's been a great role model for myself since I know of him.
That's great. So now that you've been involved running your own company, hiring people, potentially applying for paycheck protection program that the U.S. government has, going overseas, striking partnerships, raising capital. What is the most difficult thing that you've had to deal with?
I think that the most difficult thing that every entrepreneur whether they accept it or not, has to deal with is the anxiety that comes with all of this combination of things. As you said, you have to wear so many hats, and you have so much energy, so much willingness to work on everything, and not everything turns out the way you want it. Many things don't turn out the way you want it, and you have to adapt, and you have to change your strategies, and you have to face a lot of uncertainty at every turn of the way. So I think that's just managing all of that combination of emotions is a skill set in and of itself. I think that's probably the most challenging thing, is keeping your mind cold, keep staying focused, and be able to keep yourself together throughout all of the many different challenges, whether it's fundraising or a global pandemic, either one.
Well, I think that's a good segue to my next question is, how many times a week are you going to your, Bikram yoga class? How are you exercising the art of Zen or relaxing or dealing with anxiety?
So meditation is one of them. I meditate every morning. I take a good amount of time to just reset my head and get a fresh start in the morning. I think, as we were saying before, going for walks, those kind of things help a lot. And since now we have to spend more time at home, I think that it's also helping rediscovering a new family dynamics, spending more time with my daughters, with my wife, with my family, with my core group of my family. So I think that's really been helpful. All of those things have really helped to do that.
How are you keeping the health of those around you at a quality level, both your family as well as employees, given the pandemic?
Even as an actual health regarding the coronavirus crisis?
Yeah, whether it's dealing with people on a one-on-one basis or just physically spending more time with them, but 6 feet apart, or just sharing words of encouragement. What are the tools that you're implementing or are finding yourself drawing upon to give comfort to others?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I think I started doing more and more often is being express to your team the fact that you're thankful for the hard work, because right now people is working and perhaps they're also nervous, they also have a lot of pressure because this is a situation that is affecting everyone and their families. So being very thankful with them and it's explicitly telling them, hey, thank you for your hard work during these times. I think that's something that people really appreciate, and we don't necessarily tell them that every day. Before this type of situation, I didn't do it, certainly. I think that's something that I've been going to say, hey, thank you, really appreciate the hard work, really appreciate that you're coming still to the lab and working on the things that we need to work. So I think that is one very important and simple thing that we sometimes forget to do, which is saying, hey, thank you, really appreciate it. This is critical for the company, this is important for the company, thanks for doing it. And beyond that, I think is reassuring them that we as management are gonna do everything that we can to keeping them healthy and working, because I think after the health crisis, once this reduces or goes away, there is another crisis coming over, and there's going to affect a lot of people. So this is going to last a few months, but there is going to be another financial crisis after this that might last certainly a lot longer. So I think that making everyone aware that this is a situation that it will require the best of us, I think this also helps us quite a bit to keep the company in good health.
True. If you could sit down for 10, 15 minutes with a living or historical figure and ask them 2 or 3 questions that would help you or help other entrepreneurs move through this uncertainty or past this, who would that be, and what would be your number one question?
Interesting. So, dead or alive, right?
Dead or alive.
Matter. Okay. There are certainly many people that I can think of asking a lot of questions right now. But I think if you look in the political spectrum, someone who's done a lot, who went to really tough situations and really was able to stay focused on their goals and be able to really, as I said, keep it together. Probably talk to Nelson Mandela. It's a figure that I really respect, and I really look back at, wow, this guy really did a lot of very important things and did it in a very special way, because he always, I think he was characterized specifically for that, being able to keep it together, keep it, stay focused on his main goals. And I guess one of the main the things that I will ask him is exactly what you asked me a few minutes ago, which is, how do you do that? Because it's one thing being able to stay focused when you have a home to stay in, you have a family, you have a steady supply of food and drinks and everything, right? We have a very comfortable situation. I consider myself a bit privileged because I have a stable situation. But all of those things got taken away from him. And he still stayed focused and keep his mind in the right objective. So I think that's one of the things that I would like to know from him is, how do you manage to do that? Because that is certainly really challenging when you have the privileges that we have nowadays.
That's a great figure to draw inspiration from, and certainly in moments like this, whether you're an entrepreneur or a mom at home, or you're fully engaged in the work economy or not, we can certainly learn a lot from someone like that. David, I want to thank you for your time and spending a few minutes with us and talking about your entrepreneurial journey and the good, the bad, the ugly of the challenges that it presents, especially in a time like this when COVID-19 is on everyone's mind. Thanks again for joining us, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you for having me.